first question, when it comes to fitness, every guy, how I see it, has got the responsibility just to try and improve every day. So that looks different for every single person. You know, for me, at an older age where I am right now, I don't stop thinking about how can I improve myself as a cricketer. How can I improve my fitness? How can I improve my body? How can I improve my mind? So I think the difference between guys who do it for a very short period of time and guys who do it for a longer period of time is just improving. You know, I think it's just small gains all the time, right through your career. And I think that mindset is what makes, it'll just be small improvements every day. You know, it might be something small. Right now, it might be something like fielding that you could focus on. Right now, I can just improve my fielding, getting quicker to the ball, as long as my hands are good, as long as I'm taking all the catches, and gradually putting in the work just to become a better version of himself or myself, of someone. So I think it's unfair to compare different people to different. You know, comparing him and me is two different players. He's a guy that will always come in and be a power hitter and hit the ball a long way. Obviously, in terms of what he needs to work on, would be, okay, how can I make sure that I'm still fit enough to run between the wickets, that I can get twos and threes for longer periods of time. When it gets hot out there, how am I going to make sure that I'm fit enough to get tired at 20 or 30, but to stay at the crease until I get to 70 or 80 or 90. So it looks different for every single guy. I certainly am not a believer that every guy has to have a six-pack in order to be a successful cricketer. I think you work with what you have. You know, you look at greats in the game before. There's been guys long before me and even after me and him that will all look differently, but they will have the skill sets to perform at international cricket. So, yeah, it's just about small improvements every day. That was your first question. And the second question was about the youngsters. Yeah, it's in every team that I play with. For me, it's really important to share as much as I can. It's really something that I value as a player and as a leader when I was captain, is to try and connect with people as best as I can, but also share my experience of what I've gone through in my career as best as possible. You know, whether it's conversations on how to deal with success or failure or form or technique or all of the different elements. If as soon as I see a guy starting to ask questions, then I really, I really value sharing as much as I can. Yeah, I mean, I've played against him for almost 10 years in international cricket. So I've always wondered, like, you know, how does, as I said before, every captain has got a different way of getting the best out of their players. And from the outside, looking back then, I always thought that he was screaming at his players as playing against him in international cricket. But playing with him, you almost see a different side, and you get to see the perspective change, where you go, that's his way to keep the players at the top of their game, to make decisions that is, you know, whether it's bowling the right plans. He's just on it the whole time with showing his emotion. And I think that's what you ask of any leader. Is you just ask him to be his authentic self. You don't even want him to be someone else. So when I captain, I'm not going to try and captain like him. When he captains, he's not going to try and captain like me. I think it's really important that you have your own style. And as long as your style is to try and get the best out of your players in your team, then that's good. And obviously, he has got the best out of players in Pakistan because he was captain for so long, and also won a Champions Trophy. So he must be doing something right to get the best out of his players. But I enjoy playing under different captains. I think it's really good to see the different perspectives, whether it's Dhoni or Graham Smith or Safraz or Stephen Smith or whatever. It's just about seeing what makes them tick as a captain and how do they try and get the best out of their players. Very possible that it's going to happen. So, yeah, I think it works in a few ways in our not our favor, but it helps us. Obviously, conditions in Dubai or the UAE, you're looking at Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Sharjah. It's possibly more in favor of fast bowling than it would be in India. So South African team, I think, will be better off in conditions like this. When you go to India, obviously the spin challenge is always something that is something that the South African team has to conquer. So when you're playing against teams like Pakistan or India or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, even Afghanistan, with all the spinners, it can be a red flag or a challenge. So that's obviously a positive if that happens. And then, yes, as I said, I've been lucky enough to have played a little bit of cricket in the UAE. So the fact that there's 5 more games here for me to really maximize the conditions and gain experience and to share that with the national side would be only beneficial. So I think it's really important that you start from a place of being grateful that you have the opportunity to play cricket. I think if that's the most important thing, that anything else can just follow in place after that. Obviously, it comes with challenges. We don't get to see much of the outside life anymore. You spend most of your time in your room. You're very limited in what you can do. Myself personally, I've done quite a few bubbles in a row the last year and a half, and I think it's really important that you put some sort of plan in place for yourself to try and make sure that you stay mentally healthy. I think if you don't have a plan in place, it can get a challenge. It can get tough. So for me, it's really to try and make sure that I bring as much of the stuff that I'm used to at home with me, so that I can set up my room as close to I can as what it would feel like at home. So at least you don't feel like you boxed into a room all the time. And then it's obviously really important that through the management of your team, that they try and allow you to get as much outside of your room as possible. I also think that's really important, whether it's, when in Abu Dhabi now, it's going to the pool or going to the gym or going to the beach. Stuff like that is really important for mental health. I think it's just about putting plans in place. So, yeah, I try and share as much as I can with guys who experience this firsthand. Traveling with partners is tough. I've experienced that, going to the IPL, taking my family and 2 kids with me, doing quarantine for 7 days in a room with 2 kids. I can tell you, it's much harder than facing the world's quickest bowler with a new ball. So that was a challenge for me to work through. And then the second part of your question about obviously expanding the World Cup, the amount of teams. I think it's great for the game of cricket. I think what's happening in the world of sport now, it's the more people that are into the game, the better. Whether it's the smaller nations, you can see the female game is also growing. It's just good for the sport that there's more kids interested in playing. And now I suppose the ICC have expanded that to smaller countries feeling like they can be professional cricketers as well at the top of their game. Someone in a small country can do well in a World Cup and then, move into tournaments like the PSL and the IPL, which obviously sets them up from a professional point of view. Yeah, the first question, I think certainly would be in the first half of the tournament, what I felt we either batted really well or we bowled really well. So it was only the last game where we could put it together and put a complete performance. I thought the way that our spinners bowled together was something that really excited me, and probably was missing in the first couple of matches, just that firepower through the middle with wrist spinners. I think that's a real weapon in T20 cricket. Obviously, we haven't got one. Quaya's not available for this half of the tournament, but there's some other spinners in the team that we can maximize to get the best of. So I think really it's trying to use that to your advantage. None of the teams has played in Abu Dhabi, so it's not conditions that the teams would know very well. So it's important for guys like myself to share the experience on the ground that we've played here quite a bit at. And then your second part of your question, yeah, it's interesting. A T20 World Cup, obviously the shorter the format, you feel like there's more teams that can have a chance. But over a campaign or a season, you always feel like the most experienced team I really always back. So if I look at teams that have some real good experience and firepower in their ranks, you have to look at West Indies. The fact that they've brought back all their players, almost given them a directive to try and be the team that is the first team that won it 3 times. So all of those guys that you wouldn't have seen play much cricket for West Indies, Bravos, Nareens, Russells, those guys will all be back. So it's a hell of a lot of experience that they bring to that T20 side if you count the amount of batting lineup. So I would say probably right now the 2 favorites for me would be the One-Day unit. There's also a very strong team, but I'd probably say those 2 teams would be me. Right now where I'm in my career, it's important. That's why I felt it was the right time to retire from Test cricket and take a break from one-day cricket, is because there's 2 T20 World Cups in a row in 2021 and 2022. So I felt for me right now to maximize myself would be to get myself to be available as much around the world to play T20 cricket. So it was always a challenge. I always wanted to come and play in the PSL, for a full season, but with the tour programs and international cricket, it wasn't possible. So I think I did 2 games for Zalmi 2 years ago, and then obviously 3. I think it was 3 games in the beginning of the season. So it's just about that consistency of playing, with the team. And obviously this year I've got that with this side, so it's just great to be a part of it. It's a big franchise. I remember asking Shane Watson, who's a good friend of mine and the guy that I played a lot of cricket with at Chennai, about this franchise, and he only had good things to say about the Gladiators. So very easy decision for me to say, okay, I'm very interested to come and play here. So yes, of course, I would like to stay here, and I would like to make sure that I can get the team first of all to semi-finals and then some silverware, because that's why you want to play the game. And the same thing with the World Cup. As I said, I'm very driven. I think a lot of players, when they play a lot of international cricket, they almost want to take a step down or step back to just enjoy the last few years in terms of just playing a little bit of cricket here and there. But for me, it is a little bit different. I want to push myself. So I've got a 3-year goal that I still want to play at least for 3 years. I feel I'm in great condition. I almost feel like I'm fitter than I've ever been before. So it's just a drive for me to keep going. And from a performance point of view, I want to perform for T20 teams that I play for, but also when there's an opportunity to play for South Africa, to do the same. But it really well. It was never a complete performance, apart from the last, especially the last game, or maybe the last 2 games, where we started doing a little bit better. Also think the balance we had in that last game, as I said, was a really, really good balance. The two leg spinners through the middle really excited me. And then from a fast bowling perspective as well, we've got some good fast bowlers. It's just about getting wickets in T20 cricket. So, yeah, I don't know what our team would look like right now, to be honest with you. I've just come out of quarantine, and last night was my first practice. So, and I also know that not everyone is out of quarantine yet. So I'm not sure what our combinations will be. But in T20 cricket, it's wicket takers that wins you the match with the ball. And then with a bat, you need guys to get that 75 plus as a batting unit. So Safras was incredible with a bat. And he needed one more guy just to play some key innings with him. So hopefully, guys like myself can step in and do that job in the remainder of the tournament. So it's just great to be back, part of the PSL, even in a different country. I've got some good fond memories of Abu Dhabi because we not too long ago we were here with the IPL as well. And yes, I mean, we find ourselves in a position in the log where we wouldn't like to be. But also that one or two games towards the end of the competition, I felt that we started playing our best cricket. Also, all the teams have changed a lot. So even the teams that are looking strong at the top of the table would have a lot of changes in their teams because of COVID and availability of overseas players. So it's almost like it's a new tournament that's starting on the 9th. I think this is the first game of June. So for us, what's really important is how, unfortunately, we can't start slow, and we have to start in a winning way where we hit the ground running in the first game. And then sport is it's crazy when you get a bit of momentum on your side. So it's really crucial that we start the competition well. It's a threat for the international game. The power of the leagues that are growing year by year, and obviously there's only, in the beginning there was maybe 2 leagues around the world, where now it's becoming 4, 5, 6, 7 leagues, and the leagues are just getting stronger. So I think I think it's important that moving forward that you try and see it's how best possible you can coexist with both, because I think if it becomes a choice moving forward into the future, then it can be a real threat for the international game. So I don't know that will be possible. I mean, obviously that creates a huge challenge. Maybe in 10 years' time, cricket will almost be like soccer, where you have your world events, and in between you just have these leagues around the world where teams go and play. So, if I take someone like myself, you go and play in 2 or 3 leagues or 4 leagues around the world, but there's a block every year where there's a world event. So maybe something like that is where the game is going. Obviously, I can't predict the future, so I can't say that. But I think it is, there's more and more players. West Indies was probably the first team that started doing it, with all of their guys moving away from the international team to the T20, the domestic circuit. So the West Indian team lost a lot of their key players. South Africa, it's starting to happen with South Africa. If you can see over the last year or so, Imran Tahir, Chris Morris, myself, even AB to de Villiers to a degree, is it's moving that way. So I think it's important that there needs to be a way somehow where you can try and work with both. Otherwise, I think the strength of how the tournaments are growing is insanely quick at the moment. So it is right now potentially a danger for international cricket.